Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show we have reports and tips for you from Jarrett McCarthy down at Hayward Bait and Bottle, and then we talk with our local DNR wildlife biologist Josh Spiegel. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
You wanna get outdoors, you wanna have some fun.
There are still plenty of epic fishing adventures to have this year, but they rely on having the right boat. That's where Hayward Power Sports comes in. We have an awesome selection of new Lund boats built by fishermen for fishermen for the last 75 years, and no boat retains their value better. Or check out a Tracker, America's #1 selling fishing boat. Both brands are powered by Mercury outboards, rigged and ready. Don't miss another day of fishing. See us at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray, bake-down, draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom-cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're down in Hayward Bait and Bottle. We got Jarrett McCarthy in here, and Jarrett, as we get into August here, there's still a lot of people out there on our lakes. A lot of them just recreating, but there's a lot of people out fishing too.
A lot fishing and a lot of good fishing ahead of us. So, don't think just because we're getting a little later in the summer that the fishing is going to slow down at all. We've got some excellent bites out there right now, as well as excellent bites to look forward to.
You're going to have some days that's going to be tough, though, because we've had some weather fronts move through, and it was a monster weather front went down through the southern part of the state, and I think that pressure system affects us even up here. But it's up and down. That's typical summer, though.
It really is, and one of the rewarding things about going through the summer is you're going to have those days, but if you can push through them and still find fish and catch fish, your good days on the water make it that much better.
Fish smart. Your low light times early in the morning, late in the evening, you maybe even think about going out after dark. Watch your weather patterns. Watch your solar times, your majors and minors and that stuff. It all makes a difference.
It really does. Doing your homework in general, just looking at those maps ahead of time, just looking at the weather patterns that are coming through, making sure that the time that you're going to spend on the water is, good time on the water. Not that there's any such thing as bad time on the water, but yeah.
A good day anytime you're out there. Jarrett, let's talk walleyes. A lot of people want to walleye fish that are up here. Walleye typically do get harder in the summertime, but people are still catching them. I've been getting some walleyes, other people are getting them.
Yeah, we got guys that are out there trolling. We got guys that are dragging some crawlers on jig heads around. And yeah, there's guys that are picking up a few here and there. Nothing like it is during the early summer or spring, but yeah, there's still fish to be caught out there.
You bet, and just like you said, fish smart. The evenings are probably your best time for the walleyes. Panfish, that's a big thing. A lot of people are after panfish up here, and during the summer months, that's been really good.
Yep, it really has been. There's a really good bite during the daytimes or whatever, but usually it's smaller fish. But, with crappies, especially once you get to those low light periods, there's a period in which you get to in the night where that bite window will just turn on and you need to be in the right spot at the right time, and you can really do some damage on some big fish.
And the crappies, the low light thing is a real big factor, especially the more clear the water is. But you can kind of offset that some by going after the crappies that are on the deeper weeds, or if you're in the flowages, they're deeper water fish. They tend to be more active during the daytime even.
Yeah, absolutely. And the real key for crappies or what have you is just finding them or what have you. Because as soon as you get on them, as soon as you get a location where you've got a couple of bites going, you can keep pitching that spot, and usually that school will stick around for a little while.
And you really don't sit in one spot too long. I mean, that's a big mistake I see a lot of people make, is they'll get out there and they'll put a minnow on a bobber and they'll anchor down and they'll just sit there. And that's great if you're sitting on top of a bunch of fish, but these fish keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, if you could see how much those fish actually moved underwater, you'd be grabbing for that trolling motor remote a lot more than you already do. Those fish are constantly on the move, and you've constantly got schools coming through. So, I mean, if you're sitting on a great spot and you've gotten a couple bites and all of a sudden it goes quiet for about half hour, I think it's time to get moving and find that school again.
That's why I don't fish bobbers all that often, especially once I'm fishing deeper water, because I'm on spot lock and anchored with a trolling motor, and I can move 5 feet, 10 feet any direction I want and just keep kind of moving around.
No, absolutely. But slip bobbers are a really good change of pace, if you've got some really nice wind out there, because that wind will keep that slip bobber moving. And if you're only the only person in the boat, or if you had just two people in the boat, those slip bobbers and extra line out there, just as long as you're not getting in your casting directions, a great other marker just to tell you if there are other fish around where you're not casting.
How about bluegills? They tend to be a little bit more active even during the middle of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen quite a few big schools of gills out there, and seen a lot of those gills coming up to the surface during those low light periods, feeding on bugs and what have you. But bluegill bite's been really, really good. Seen some really nice bluegills get caught this year. And, if you're looking for something to kind of occupy your days, waiting for those low light periods, bluegills are a great option. They make for a good table fare.
You bet. I actually think them are better eating than the crappies, but it depends on where you're fishing. The flowages, some of the deep water is holding bluegills. Some of the weeds are still holding, but they'll move in and out of the weeds according to the weather and whether the weeds are starting to die or not. Clearwater lakes, they tend to be more weed related.
Weed related or structure related. There's a couple clear bodies of water around here where they've got some really good crib actions for those bodies of water that kind of lack some of the weeds in certain areas of the lake. But you're looking for structure. You're looking for anything those bluegills are going to hang to that offers them some protection from predators.
Water's cooling off a little bit more consistent for going after the muskies out there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're starting to see a lot more pictures starting to roll through now that we got some cooler temps, throughout the day and then, morning and evening time. So it's making it a lot easier for people to get out and safely fish for those muskies.
And they'll start, at some point, we'll see a lot of fish moving quite a bit shallower, too. So
yeah, absolutely. Just like we normally do with, that fall movement.
You bet. In pike fishing, that's good out there. Especially for the smaller pike, the table fare, the eaters, get around the weeds, they'll be in there, and there again, a lot of the bigger fish will move up a little shallower here later in the month here and get into September.
Yeah, absolutely. Fishing's been really good for pike, whether you're looking for a nice sized pike or a whole bunch of eaters, there's plenty out there to be caught.
And lastly, let's talk about bass fishing. Smallmouth fishing has actually been very, very good, especially on topwater baits even.
Yeah, it really has been. And it could be as shallow a bite as 5 foot, or it could be, over 20 to 30 feet of water. A lot of these fish are pushing bait up against the top of the water right now and making a really fun topwater bite out there.
Yeah, especially on the flowages, they tend to be shallow more often. And largemouth fishing, that's also been good too. And that's been a lot of weed-related stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Those fish are sitting on those weed lines right where those bluegills are hanging out, because that's what they're usually foraging on. But your typical Texas rig, your wacky rig, those are all performing really well.
And, we're close to looking at the hunting seasons out here. I mean, we have some major changes on the deer zones this year, and the deer bonus tags will be available on morning, I think, Monday the 18th.
Yeah, I believe they go on sale at, it's usually 10 a.m.
Yep.
Yeah, 10 a.m. So if you're looking to get in line or what have you for a doe tag, make sure you come on in, take a gander at some of the new zones that the DNR's laid out for all the counties around here, and make sure you get yourself a doe tag.
And you guys have got all the gear and equipment here for hunting seasons. I know you got a ton of crossbows. John's been busy setting up crossbows. You got a big supply of that, archery stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you're looking to set yourself up with a new crossbow or, some traditional archery gear, looking to pick yourself up a firearm for the upcoming hunting season, make sure you stop on by and see us.
It ain't very long before we'll see it. We got the small game season starts at the same time as the archery season. And, I grew up doing a lot of hunting for squirrels and rabbits out there. They're just fun to go after.
They are. Yep, absolutely.
Well, Jarrett, I want to thank you for taking the time with us here.
Thanks, John.
Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking to our local DNR wildlife biologist, Josh Spiegel. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop for the Hayward area's largest selection of rods, reels, lures, fishing electronics, boating supplies, and they've now expanded their selection of soft plastic bass and walleye baits. No matter what you're fishing for, at Hayward Bait and Bottle you'll find everything you'll need for a successful season, and while you're there, in their bottle shop you'll find a full selection of beer, wine, and liquor too. And also don't forget, now they carry Shoremaster docks, lifts, and accessories at Hayward Bait and Bottle. There's no time like the present to explore Hayward, Wisconsin, one of the Midwest's most popular vacation destinations. With crystal clear lakes for water sports and fishing, miles of trails for riding snowmobiles, ATVs, cross-country skiing, hiking, and mountain biking, this area is buzzing with activity year-round. Combined with charming local shops and a variety of Northwoods dining options, Hayward is certain to offer both adventure and relaxation for everyone. Plan your trip today and find everything you need on the Hayward Area Chamber of Commerce website. From events and attractions to local dining, shopping, and lodging, visit haywardareachamber.com and start your next adventure now. Big fish stories come to life at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. The world's largest shrine to freshwater anglers boasts a 4.5-story tall walk-through muskie that's a half a city block long. It's like taking a peek into Granddad's old tackle box with thousands of mounted fish, antique outboard motors, and historical sport fishing artifacts. Stop in and take a chance on our 50-50 cash raffle. You could walk away with a pile of cash. See the big ones that didn't get away at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, Highways 27 and B in Hayward. Open daily, including Sundays, through October 31st at 9:30 a.m.
Looking to get more done and unlock more adventures this summer? It's time for a new side-by-side or ATV, and Hayward Power Sports has some great Can-Am summer deals on now. This is your chance to find your new ride and get up to $3,500 off or 0.99 financing for 36 months on select 2025 models. The Can-Am Defender is the perfect utility side-by-side that's extra tough on the worksite or for projects around your property. Can-Am Maverick is the high-performance machine that delivers an unrivaled adrenaline surge. Or get the best of work and play with the ultimate crossover, the Can-Am Commander. Maybe you prefer a traditional Can-Am ATV. If so, there are none that match the performance of a Can-Am Outlander ATV. You deserve a machine that's ready to explore, work, and play as hard as you do. And with up to $3,500 off or 0.99 financing for 36 months, now's the time to make it happen. Take home a Can-Am today from Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Certain conditions apply. See dealer for details.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on lodging and vacationing here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, with the hunting season's fast approaching on us now, had a chance to sit down and talk with our local DNR wildlife biologist, Josh Spiegel, about hunting seasons and a lot more. Josh, it's that time of year again. Good to have you on here.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks for reaching out. Good to sit down here and chat.
We're getting to that time of year where, it's going to be a few weeks here before we start looking at hunting seasons open. And first of all, the one thing opens up is small game and opens up for deer, archery. What's things looking like for the deer out there right now? You have a lot of people complaining there's no deer, and then there is deer. I mean, what's your look at it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some interesting winters here the last couple of years. We had a pretty tough one there, 22, 23. Took a pretty good hit on our deer population, but now the last two have been pretty mild, to put it lightly, very mild. So deer population, they're starting to bounce back. A lot of younger deer in the landscape. A lot of those deer that did make 22, 23, they're in phenomenal shape. But, like anything up here in northern Wisconsin, it's kind of pockets. Pockets are really good, and it's all habitat based. If you can get that prime habitat, the younger, thicker, dense forests, anything with oak component, acorns don't look to be as good this year as they have the past couple years, but vegetation this year is really, really good. So you got to get out and do your homework. Why does a deer want to be there? What's the food source, the bedding, the cover, etc.?
I'm seeing this year, a wide range of fawns, because I've seen some that are pretty big already, but there's also some little tiny ones laying around or coming around.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen any given year. That's all based on the breeding cycles and whatnot that you're going to see through the fall time frame. Generally speaking, that means that your bucks are having to travel a little bit further to find those does, which again isn't common here. You know, does last fall that would have been around. They're probably younger. They're moving around, etc. So that might delay some of the breeding, which then in turn delays some of the birthing in the springtime.
You know, and one of the big things everybody talks about, they complain about the wolves. The wolf population is pretty high.
Well, it's stable. It's not growing up here in northern Wisconsin. The packs are roughly the same size. You get some dispersers here and there, but I mean, the wolf population is stable. They maintain themselves on the landscape as well. There's a lot of factors that they deal with in given years, and to be honest, those mild winters, those can be really, really difficult on the predators like wolves, where they're a lot nicer for things like deer, turkey, grouse, elk, etc.
You know, other predators out there in the woods. What's our bear population looking like?
Bear population is very healthy. You know, the tough part is balancing opportunity with what's available. You know, like any given species, the bulk of your population is going to be younger animals, you know, 1-2-year-old bear, etc. So now you have people waiting 10, 11, 12 years to draw a bear tag here in Unit A or Bear Zone A here. They're going to try to maximize that. You know, they might not want to take a 2-year-old bear. They might be waiting for that 3, 4, 5-year-old bear to fill that tag and pass on some opportunities. So it comes down to the individual hunter, but plenty of bear on the landscape. We're seeing them around, you know, in our travels on the daily basis too. So a lot of bear.
You know, and let's talk a little bit about some other things out there, small game, and, you know, with the grouse population. Is it coming back a little bit?
Yeah, so we're still on the bottom end of the cycle. You know, we're kind of on the upswing now. But again, these past couple winters, they've been very mild. We're seeing birds all over the place. And it's much like we talked about earlier with deer. You know, you're seeing birds in areas of really good habitat and areas where there's maybe not as good a habitat, you know, those bigger hardwood stands, etc., that aren't preferred by grouse. You're probably not going to cross up as many, but you know, we are on the upswing of the cycle here, or trending upwards. But our grouse numbers, again, our trend cycles have looked really good, and I don't expect anything to change. You know, we are in one of the bigger blocks of high quality grouse habitat for really the upper Midwest. So grouse numbers will remain really well, just have to find that preferred habitat too, that aspen edge, alder swamp edge type components. They're going to reach out there.
You know, and the other bird out there is turkeys, and they've seemed to, like, I can remember years ago, biologists tell me we'd never have them, but they're everywhere.
Yeah, they are. They're everywhere, and you know, to be honest, we see them a lot along the roadways. They're picking up gravel and rocks and whatnot for their stomachs and digestion of food. So highly visible to us, but they've done very, very well. You know, they can be susceptible in bad winters, which again, 22-23, we lost some turkeys on the landscape, but here recently they've done really well. And they've adapted to our landscape very well. They've taken to the deeper forests and whatnot pretty well, and obviously have done really well in those transition areas between farmland, ag, and forest, etc.
Well, you know, we're talking small game too. The other thing too is I grew up hunting rabbits and squirrels, and squirrel population to me seems to be pretty stable everywhere. I am starting to see in my area anyhow, I'm starting to see quite a few more cottontails showing up.
Yeah, cottontails, and I'll even go out there, you know, it's not going to be like the days of old, but starting to see some more snowshoe hare around too. You know, small, minute number increases, but more than I'd say I saw 10, 12 years ago up in the greater Sawyer County area up here. So it's nice to see some of that. You know, they're going to fluctuate with predator bases too. Fisher and mink and bobcat, coyote, etc. As animals move around, you're going to see those populations fluctuate as well. But I would agree with that. I'm seeing a lot of those small prey species as well.
You know, and there's other things. There's disease too that they can get, because I've actually found cottontails right by my place out there that were laying there dead for no reason. There was no wounds on them at all. They just maybe had some kind of disease or something.
Yeah, and there's all different factors that these animals deal with. There's a lot of different things that these animals have to battle with and survive. Something like widespread disease we haven't seen, but at the individual level, there's always something. Infection is a big one. They could break something or pick something up and digest something, whatever it might be, get an infection, and then really struggle from that point on. So these animals, it's pretty amazing to see what they deal with on an individual basis. Not to swing too far, but you think of how many deer or bear or something out there that have been clipped by a car or injured in some way where they're now living on 3 legs and sustaining at that. Tons of examples out there. So these animals are extremely resilient living in our area.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with DNR wildlife biologist Josh Spiegel. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Hey folks, the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach on Highway K between the Big Lakes has groceries, ice, beer, liquor, and pop, and now has all new tackle and bait supplies. All current antiques and household items are now on sale and all must go to make room for the sport shop. That's at the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach between the Big Lakes.
If you'd like to have your time fishing be more enjoyable and productive, hiring a fishing guide can be a good investment. Whether it's learning more about fish patterns throughout the year, learning how to use your depth finder to find the best spots and fish, learn how to use that GPS to get the most out of it, or learn better boat control. A day on the water with a guide can really help you to be a better angler, as well as make a day on the lake very enjoyable. To book a guide trip this year or get more information, you can find us on the internet at www.wiscnorthlandoutdoors.com, and then just click on Area Guides.
Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into the second part of that talk we had with wildlife biologist Josh Spiegel. Josh, let's talk about some regulation changes and some stuff that's changed. I know there's been quite a bit of changes. One thing right here, first of all, we're at the end of that ban on baiting, feeding, I think, are we?
Yeah, I forget the exact date off my head, but it's somewhere in early October where the deer baiting and feeding ban will be lifted in Sawyer County unless another positive CWD sample was found in our area. So this dates back to a game farm positive in southeastern Washburn County. So that triggered the 2-year ban that should be up in early October of this year. At that point in time, baiting and feeding becomes legal, and people will be able to utilize that again here in Sawyer County. Outside of anything else, we just recommend get your deer tested, for simple fact, it's safety of eating your meat, etc. But also it gives us a relative health and understanding of our deer herd up here. So I'd recommend that everyone gets their CWD sample taken. You can do that either at the Hayward DNR office or the Winter DNR office. There's 2 kiosks that can be dropped off, and then a handful of businesses. If you visit the DNR website, you can search CWD sampling, and that'll show you all locations across the state you can sample a deer.
When it comes to that baiting and feeding too, you have had a problem with some elk, I know, right?
Yeah, and the bigger issue, so it is illegal to bait and feed if elk are utilizing your bait site, because in the state of Wisconsin, it's illegal to bait or feed for elk. That's hunting, viewership, whatever it might be. But the biggest part to it is, and deer can be affected with this as well, as introducing new food sources to an animal. So they're very similar to cattle, livestock, where if you change their diet too fast, their body cannot break it down. So this actually becomes a big deal when you're talking about over winter from an animal health standpoint. This isn't regulation related, etc. But from an animal health standpoint, both deer and elk, if they're not used to that food availability or that food source in their system, they can't break it down and they end up dying with a full stomach. So be extremely cautious of that. You might have your local deer herd that comes to the feed site, every day, and those animals are probably eating small portions and adjusting to it. But when new animals, let's say you've got 4 or 5 that visit your place on a regular basis, well, when 7, 8, and 9 start showing up in deep winter, you're actually exposing them to a food source that their body cannot break down. So it ends up becoming a bigger issue from an animal health standpoint to introduce that new food source, and you're actually likely causing more harm than you are good.
And as we wrap up here, some big changes when it comes to deer zones and all that good stuff.
Yeah, yep. So this is going to be big for this year, fall of 2025. Antlerless tags go on sale here August 18th, I believe it is, next Monday. You're going to want to know where you're hunting. So we're going back to more habitat-based deer units, so getting away from the county system. I think this is extremely smart. I was a big advocate for pushing back this direction because we have deer, like I said earlier, in different pockets. Well, those pockets are usually associated with the habitat types that are found within those areas. So Sawyer County here has got some new units, kind of the western side, southwestern side, Unit 109. That's going to be a lot more mixed agriculture, some forest, etc. Right through the center of the county here, it's a lot of private land with some small blocks of public lands in Unit 111. To the north, we got 113. That's going to be a big block of the national forest and that kind of bigger forest aspect to that. And then down in the southeastern part, you're going to have Unit 112. That's going to be, again, some more big forest of that, a lot of county and state lands with the Flambeau and Sawyer, Rusk, and Price County lands. So please know where you're going this year. Visit our DNR website. Any of the licensed dealers in our area have maps to help you out, but there is going to be a little bit of a change this there. So just make sure when you go and purchase your antlerless tags, when they go on sale, you know where you're hunting. And we will still have the private and public land associations to those tags. So make sure that you're doing your homework and buying the right tag. We hate for someone to click the wrong button and be out or have some concerns related to that tag.
I know, and it's all precisely divided by given highways.
Yep. For the most part, it's we're going back to the landscape features. So it might be a highway, it might be a major river, something like that, but defined by something physical on the landscape versus the imaginary county line that might float through the Flambeau River State Forest, and you don't know exactly where you are. But yes, all the units will be defined by a physical feature like a road, a lake, river, something like that, identifiable on the landscape.
Well, Josh, it's great talking to you here. I don't know if you got any last thing you wanted to bring out, but it's been great having you on here.
Yeah, no, I think the last thing is I'm hoping that many of the people listening are feeling like I am. Some of these cool mornings are waking up and seeing some of the fog and just excited for the fall here. Bear hunting's right around the corner here, starting in early September, followed by all of our many seasons that then open up shortly after that. So kind of getting the itch to get out there in the woods and sit in the deer stand, the waterfall blind, drag the dog through the woods, something like that. I'm excited for this fall and I hope everyone else is too.
Well, thank you, Josh, for coming on here with us.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, go to our website at WNOradio.com. And from there, you can link to our podcast site, and the show is also on Spotify and Google Podcasts every week. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com. Thanks for listening, folks. We're out of time, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you.
Listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin outdoors, our Wisconsin outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications.